The girl who vanished on a soda run, and the predator hiding in the Texas suburbs. Serial offenders all have a pattern, a rhythm, a method, a predictable signature that makes investigators say, "Oh, it's him again." But this one didn't fit any profile. He didn't hunt at night. He didn't stalk the shadows. He didn't wait in alleyways or behind dumpsters or in abandoned lots. He hunted in daylight, on quiet streets, in small neighborhoods where people didn't lock their doors, where kids still rode their bikes in the street, where everyone trusted everyone. And the worst part? He blended in, perfectly. No one suspected him. Not once. Not for decades. Until an 18-year-old girl took a short walk for a soda and never came home. This is her story. And this is how a buried DNA trail and an exhumed body no one expected blew open a case that police thought would never see justice. Her name was Elena Parker, teen, high school senior, smart, quiet, the kind of girl who apologized when someone bumped into her. On the night she vanished, she wasn't at a party. She wasn't with a boyfriend. She wasn't sneaking out. She was doing something painfully ordinary. Quick walk, half a mile, to grab a soda. She was at her best friend Tessa's house. They were studying for finals, laughing, sharing snacks, being normal teenagers. At 8:42 p.m., Elena grabbed her jacket. "I'll be right back," she said. She walked out the door, stepped into the warm Texas evening, and disappeared into the kind of night that should have been safe. She never came back, and that walk, that innocent, everyday walk, turned into the beginning of one of the most chilling cold cases in Texas suburb history. Tessa called her phone. No answer. Then again. The fear started slow, a whisper in her chest, a strange, creeping dread she couldn't shake. Something was wrong, very wrong. By the time Elena should have been walking back through the front door, her soda in hand, the tension in the house had grown thick and suffocating. Tessa called Elena's mom, then her brother, then her neighbors. No one had seen her. By midnight, her family was out in the streets with flashlights. By 2 a.m., deputies joined them. By dawn, the entire cul-de-sac was taped off. Dogs searched. Helicopters hovered. Neighbors opened their sheds, garages, yards. Nothing. No jacket. No phone. No soda bottle. Not a single piece of evidence. Elena had simply vanished. In the first 72 hours, police followed every lead. A white truck seen near the road? Ruled out. A neighbor who thought she heard a girl scream? It was a fox. A camera on a restaurant? Too blurry. It all seemed random, desperate, like the world had swallowed Elena whole without leaving a trace. And then, something strange, something small, almost unimportant. A resident 3 streets away reported seeing a man digging in his backyard. At night, alone, with no lights. The police checked. The homeowner claimed he was planting a tree. And that was it. Case closed. No tree found. No follow-up. That detail, that weird little inconsistency, it would matter decades later. But back then, it got lost in the noise. Weeks turned into months. Months into years. Elena's posters faded. The tips slowed down. The search parties ended. Life moved on even though her family couldn't. And in the police archives, her file grew dusty, stamped with one word that haunts every family of a missing person. Inactive. But then, 24 years later, a new detective opened her file. His name was Detective Grant Mercer. Cold cases were his obsession. He didn't believe in coincidences. And he definitely didn't believe that a teenager walks for soda and simply disappears. He began reading the old statements. And when he got to that detail, the man who claimed he was planting a tree, he paused. The report said the man was Harold Stokes. Middle-aged, divorced, no kids, electrician. He died 10 years after Elena vanished. Case closed, right? Except Mercer had a rule. People lie, bodies don't. So he did something no one ever thought to do. He ordered Harold Stokes' body exhumed. On a gray morning, the coffin cracked open. Inside was Harold Stokes, still wearing his work clothes, still clutching a small metal ring with initials inside. Not his initials, someone else's. If the ring belonged to a victim, this could change everything. Mercer sent it straight to the lab. And then another surprise. When the coroner examined Harold's fingernails, she found something unexpected preserved underneath. Old DNA, skin cells, too old to test back when he died. But not too old now. It wasn't Harold's. It wasn't from any relative. It was female, teenage, consistent with someone around 18. Mercer's heart stopped. It wasn't enough to say it was Elena. Not yet. But it was enough to say Harold Stokes wasn't the quiet suburb neighbor everyone thought he was. He was violent. He had taken someone. And Mercer was willing to bet everything that person was Elena. Mercer dug deeper into Harold's past. He found broken relationships, domestic violence complaints, neighbors reporting screaming, a missing dog, a niece who refused to visit the house after one terrifying weekend. And then something chilling. Pattern. Harold had lived in 5 different Texas suburbs over 15 years. In each one, a girl had gone missing. Different ages, different circumstances, different police jurisdictions. But every single one disappeared within 3 months of Harold moving there. He was a drifter predator, a suburban chameleon, not the kind of serial offender profilers warned about. A new kind, a quiet one who hunted where no one expected danger. He blended in, he fixed your lights, he waved when you got the mail, and the whole time he was looking, watching, waiting, choosing. The lab called Mercer 2 weeks later. Detective, you need to sit down. The DNA under Harold's fingernails? It wasn't just female and teenage. It was a partial match to something in the national database. Not from a criminal, not from a suspect, from a relative, a close one, a direct family member. Mercer had them run it again, then a 3rd time. Then he called Elena's mother. And when the results came back, they confirmed it. The DNA was Elena's. Harold Stokes had made contact with her. Violent contact. This was the breakthrough they needed. But one question remained. Where was her body? And that question cracked open a path Mercer never expected. The same neighbor who saw Harold digging had moved years ago. The new homeowners agreed to let Mercer search the yard. The ground-penetrating radar lit up immediately. A disturbance. 6 feet down. Irregular shape. Not a tree. Not a pipe. Not an animal. A grave. They dug carefully, inches at a time, layer by layer. And then a piece of fabric. Blue. Faded. Worn. The color Elena's mother said she wore the night she left Tessa's house. Then bone. Small. Human. The remains were fragile. Oh, nearly impossible to identify visually. But inside the shallow grave, preserved in clay, was something that made Mercer go cold. A necklace. Silver. With a tiny letter E. Her mother confirmed it. It was Elena's. Finally, after nearly 25 years, they had found her. But the most terrifying discovery? Not the body. Not the necklace. Not even the truth that a predator had been living among them. It was what they found next to her remains. A second grave. Smaller. Newer. Unmarked. Whoever was in that grave wasn't part of the original investigation. This was new. Unexpected. Wrong. And it told Mercer something that made his blood run cold. Harold Stokes hadn't acted alone. The DNA from the second grave didn't match Elena. Didn't match Harold. Didn't match any missing person on file. But it did match something else. A suspect profile in a cold case from a town 2 hours away. A suspect who vanished the same year Elena did. A suspect investigators had always believed was the killer in their case. But he wasn't. He was a victim. Someone murdered him and buried him beside Elena, which meant there was another predator, another set of hands, another partner, someone who used Elena's disappearance as a way to eliminate loose ends. Someone still alive, someone still out there, operating, hunting, hidden in plain sight, a predator investigators had never seen, not once, because they'd been looking for the wrong monster. Mercer paced alone in the department. Files open, photos scattered, DNA reports glowing under a desk lamp. If Harold had a partner, someone who killed the suspect in the second grave, someone who kept offending after Harold's death, then Elena's case wasn't closed. It was just beginning. And then the phone rang. A quiet voice on the other end said, "You're looking for me, detective." Silence. Mercer froze. The voice continued, "You won't find me digging in backyards anymore. Not this time. Not with what's coming." Click. Line dead. Mercer stared at the phone, his hands shaking, his world collapsing, because the voice on the line didn't sound like a stranger. It sounded like someone he knew, someone inside the investigation, someone who should never have had Elena's case file. Partner, predator, a ghost living inside the Texas suburbs, still hunting, still free, and still watching him. Detective Grant Mercer didn't move. Not at first. Not after the call ended. Not after that chilling voice whispered the words that hollowed him out from the inside. "You're looking for me, detective." Click. Silence. The office around him hummed with the low buzz of machines. The air conditioner kicked on. A chair creaked down the hall. Everything felt normal. Too normal. But inside Mercer's chest, something was collapsing, breaking, falling apart. Because that voice, it wasn't random. It wasn't disguised. It wasn't robotic, altered, or distorted. It was deliberate, clear, confident. Someone taunting him. Someone who knew his name. Someone who knew about the graves. Someone who knew about the DNA link. Someone inside the investigation. Or worse, someone who had been close for years. Mercer inhaled sharply. This wasn't just a killer. This was a planner, a stalker, a patient hunter who'd learned how to disappear in plain sight. And now he was resurfacing. For him, Mercer pulled the call log. Blocked number. Of course, he traced the tower location anyway. Pinged from somewhere impossible. Outside the police station, 1 block away, less than a minute before the call. The killer had been close enough to see his window, close enough to watch him panic. Mercer grabbed his jacket, sprinted outside, scanned the street. Cars, people, noise, lights, nothing unusual. But somewhere out there, behind a wheel, behind a window, behind a shadow, the predator was watching, smiling, taunting, playing a game only he knew the rules to. Mercer returned inside. He opened the cold case database. Every file on Elena, every photo, every interview, every DNA update, all accessed recently by someone using a secure login, someone with clearance. He checked the ID, a detective who retired 12 years ago. Badge number 417. Name, Daniel Riker. Old school, quiet. One of the original responding officers the night Elena went missing. But Riker wasn't dead. He was living 2 towns over. Disabled. Stroke 6 years ago. Barely mobile. So who used his login? Who accessed those files at 2:16 a.m. for nearly an hour? Who was digging through photos that no one had touched in decades? The killer had slipped inside the digital archive like smoke under a door. And he left fingerprints everywhere. Not physical, but behavioral. Which photos he clicked, which reports he lingered on, which suspects interested him. He was studying the investigation just like he had studied his victims. Mercer zoomed in. One detail chilled him. The killer had opened the list of original neighborhood witnesses. He zoomed again. He'd focused on one name, tiny detail, overlooked, forgotten. A witness who claimed she saw someone walking behind Elena that night. A name Mercer hadn't paid much attention to yet. Mallory Hayes, age 14 at the time, lived 2 houses down. Said she saw a man trailing Elena, too far away to identify. Her statement was dismissed, filed, buried. But the killer had clicked on her profile 6 times. 6. Why? Mercer's mind raced. What if Mallory hadn't just seen someone? What if she'd seen him? What if she remembered something the killer feared? What if she was still alive? And what if the killer was going to silence her before Mercer could get there? Mercer grabbed his keys. slammed the office door, jumped into his car. Address pulled from old files. A small house outside the city. 30-minute drive. He speed. Faster. Faster. Rain hammered the windshield. Traffic blurred. His pulse pounded in his ears. Every second mattered. Every red light felt like a threat. He called dispatch. Send a unit to 913 West Brookline. Immediately. Possible target connected to Elena Parker case. They asked questions. He didn't answer. He just drove. 20 minutes later, he turned into a dim neighborhood lined with old ranch-style homes. Dark windows, wet sidewalks, dead leaves swirling on driveways. Mallory's house sat at the far end. Porch light flickering. Front gate open. A bad sign. Mercer stepped out. Rain soaked him instantly. He approached slowly, hand on his weapon. Mallory Hayes? It's Detective Mercer. I need to speak with you. Silence. He knocked harder. Nothing. He tried the door. Unlocked. Worse, he pushed it open. The living room was empty. A mug of tea still steaming on the table. A sweater on the couch. TV paused on a news channel. Mallory had been here minutes ago. And then movement. A thump. Soft. From the hallway, Mercer raised his gun. Mallory. Another sound. He moved toward it. Step by step. Breath tight. Heart racing. He turned the corner and froze. Mallory Hayes stood there, back pressed against the wall. Eyes wide. Shaking. Not scared of him. Scared of whatever was behind her. Detective, he was here. Her voice trembled. Barely audible. Mercer stepped closer. Who? She swallowed. The man from that night. He felt his blood run cold. What did he do? He asked me if I still remembered what I saw. Mercer's chest tightened. Where is he now? Her lips quivered. He said, tell the detective I said hello. Mercer's stomach dropped. The killer knew he was coming. He'd been in this house minutes ago. Maybe seconds. Closed. Watching. Mercer scanned the room. A back window. Unlocked. Wet footprints on the sill. He escaped. Again. But he left something behind. Something very wrong. Mallory's phone lay on the floor. Screen cracked. A single message open. It was sent from a new number. No name. No ID. Just a message. You should have kept quiet. Mercer looked at Mallory. She wasn't just a witness. She was a target. And now so was he. Mallory sat at the table, hands shaking, blanket wrapped around her. Mercer kept his voice calm. Tell me what you saw that night. She inhaled slowly. I didn't tell the truth, she whispered. Mercer leaned in. Why not? Because I saw more than just a man walking behind Elena. Her voice cracked. I saw too. Silence hit the room hard. Two, just like the graves, just like Mercer feared. Describe them, he said. She nodded, eyes distant. One was tall, broad shoulders, older, maybe late 40s. He wore work boots. I thought he was just a neighbor, Harold Stokes. This matched perfectly. And the second? Mercer asked. Mallory hesitated, her voice barely a breath. He was younger, cleaner, calm. He didn't look like a monster. She shook her head. He looked like someone you'd trust. Mercer felt something inside him drop, because her description didn't sound like a drifter, or a stranger, or someone passing through. It sounded like someone local, someone normal, someone who could slip into any neighborhood and never raise suspicion. Do you remember his face? Mercer asked. Mallory shivered. No, because he saw me before I saw him. Mercer swallowed. What did he do? She squeezed her eyes shut. He smiled. A cold, knowing smile. Like he wasn't worried at all that I saw him. Like he wanted me to. Mercer felt a chill crawl up his spine. Mallory, why didn't you tell the police? She looked at him, guilt soaking her eyes. Because the younger one, he came back the next day. Mercer froze. What? He knocked on our door. He told my mom he was checking in on us. What did he tell you? Mallory's voice dropped to a whisper. He told me that if I said a word about seeing him, He'd bury me where no one would ever find me. Mercer's pulse hammered. And now he's back, she whispered. He said the graves you found weren't the only ones. Mercer leaned back slowly. Not just a partner, planner, a survivor, someone who stayed hidden for decades, someone still killing, someone escalating. The second man wasn't a ghost after all. He was alive, he was bold, and he wanted Mercer to know he existed. Mercer secured Mallory at a safe house, then returned to the station. He dug deeper. Who lived near Harold Stokes back then? Who moved shortly after Elena vanished? Who had the right age, build, background? He found 5 names, then 3, then 1. Evan Rudd, 25 at the time of Elena's disappearance. Carpenter, friendly, helpful, did odd jobs around the neighborhood. Moved 2 months after Elena vanished. No arrest, no complaints. Clean record, too clean. His file had nothing, absolutely nothing, and that's what bothered Mercer most. Predators always leave tiny cracks, tiny shadows, tiny slips, but Rudd's file was flawless, untouched, artificially perfect, like someone had cleaned it. Mercer checked his current address. A quiet neighborhood, tree-lined streets, normal houses, normal people, too normal. Exactly the kind of place the killer would hide. Mercer whispered to himself, "You've been waiting for this." He grabbed his gun, his badge, and went. Night had fully fallen when Mercer pulled onto Rudd Street. Wind rustled through trees. Dogs barked in distant yards. A porch light flickered 3 houses down. But Rudd's house stood out. A red bulb glowed above his porch. Dim. Uneasy. Wrong. Red lights meant something in certain circles. A code. A signal. Mercer approached slowly. No movement. No sound. But then a faint hum inside. Electrical. Low. Steady. He knocked. No answer. He knocked again, louder. Evan Rudd. Police. Open the door. Silence. He tried the handle. Unlocked. Never a good sign. Mercer stepped inside. The house was clean. Too clean. Couch perfectly aligned. TV spotless. Kitchen counters empty. A life wiped down to the bone. But the humming continued, soft, eerie, from somewhere deeper in the house. Mercer followed it. Down the hallway, past 3 shut doors, to the basement. The hum grew louder. Mercer took a breath. Hand on his gun. Stepped down slowly. The hum became a whirring. Mechanical. Cyclic. Then he reached the bottom step. And froze. The basement was a shrine of darkness. Walls lined with shelves. Folders. Photos. Maps. Every missing girl from every suburb Harold ever lived in. And 2 Mercer didn't recognize. The walls were covered in their faces. Elena's photo was pinned dead center. Below it, fresh Polaroids. Of Mallory, taken from outside her house. Mercer's blood ran cold. The killer had been watching her for months. And then he saw something that stopped him completely. A countdown. A handwritten note. 48 hours. She becomes the next burial. Mallory. He'd planned to kill her. Soon. But that wasn't the worst part. On a small table sat a radio transmitter. Still warm. Still humming. The same hum Mercer heard earlier. Connected to something else. A phone. The same phone that had called him earlier that night. Mercer exhaled slowly. He was close. Too close. He turned. And then heard the voice behind him. "I knew you'd figure it out." Mercer raised his gun. Evan Rudd stood in the doorway. Calm. Relaxed. Smiling. Like he'd been expecting applause. Rudd stepped forward. "You really think Harold was the problem?" he asked softly. He was sloppy. Angry. Impulsive. He shook his head. "I was the one who chose them. I was the one who watched. I was the one who planned everything." His smile widened. "Elena was mine. He just followed orders." Mercer's grip tightened. "You buried the other man beside her," Mercer said. "The suspect they thought was the killer." Rudd nodded proudly. "He talked too much. Thought he could join us." He shrugged. "So I retired him." Mercer moved slowly, angling himself toward the stairs. "You've been doing this for years," he said. Rudd smiled. "Decades. And calling me?" Mercer asked. "You wanted me here." "Of course," Rudd said. "You're the only one who could appreciate my work." Mercer glanced around the room. The maps, the photos, the tools, a lifetime of violence, a legacy of ghosts. But Mercer wasn't leaving without ending it. "So what now?" Mercer asked quietly. Rudd tilted his head. "Now, you die here, and they call it a tragic accident." He lifted something from behind him. A knife, long, sharp, handled with familiarity. Rudd stepped forward. Mercer stepped back. The room breathed darkness. Rudd lunged. Mercer dodged, hit a shelf. Files crashed to the floor. Rudd slashed again. Mercer blocked with his arm. Pain shot up his elbow. Rudd smiled. "You're slower than I expected." Mercer grabbed the nearest object, a metal flashlight, and swung, cracked against Rudd's skull. Rudd stumbled, dropped the knife. Mercer kicked it away. Rudd roared, tackled him, slammed him into the wall. The basement shook. Dust fell. Mercer gasped. Rudd's hands closed around his throat. "Should have left the past buried," he hissed. Mercer clawed at his arms. Vision dimming, air slipping away. He reached blindly, fingers scraping the table. Phone, papers, cables, then cold metal. The radio transmitter. Mercer grabbed it, swung it upward, crashed into Rudd's jaw. Teeth cracked, blood sprayed. Rudd fell backward. Mercer collapsed, coughing. Rudd crawled toward the knife. Mercer reached first. He grabbed it and held it to Rudd's throat. Rudd froze. Mercer's voice was low, unshaking. "This ends now." And he drove his knee into Rudd's chest, slamming him to the ground. Sirens wailed outside. Backup had arrived. Officers stormed the basement, pinned Rudd, cuffed him, dragged him up the stairs. Rudd looked back at Mercer, still smiling. "You didn't win," he whispered. "There are more." His eyes glinted, buried deeper. Mercer didn't react. Not yet, because something else caught his attention. A single, sealed box in the corner, labeled only with one chilling sentence. "The ones they never found." Days later, Mercer stood at Elena Parker's grave, her mother beside him, tears streaming silently. "It's over," Mercer said softly. Her mother nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. Mallory Hayes survived. Protected. Safe. Rudd faced over a dozen charges: kidnapping, homicide, conspiracy, abuse of a corpse. Harold Stokes was confirmed as his accomplice. Elena finally had justice, finally had her name cleared from cold files, finally came home. But as Mercer left the cemetery, he felt the weight again. The box from Rudd's basement, the maps, the notes, the ones Rudd hinted at, the ones no one had found yet, the ones still buried. Justice was served. Like and subscribe for more videos. Thank you.